Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take stacks of carefully curated information and, well, we try to distill them into pure knowledge gold for you.
Yeah.
And today we are undertaking a task that is, it's monumental. We're unpacking the artistic, cultural, and commercial eras of one of the 21st century's most defining figures.
Beyoncé Giselle Knowles-Carter.
Exactly.
It's truly a 3-decade study in just relentless evolution. Creative boundary pushing, and maybe most importantly, absolute managerial control.
Right.
The sources you provided just underscore how massive her impact has been. It moves far beyond, simple pop stardom to literally reshaping industry structures.
Absolutely. And when you look at the raw statistics,
The numbers are just staggering.
they really are. They alone establish her monumental status. It gives us the foundational context for this deep dive. We are talking about an artist with estimated sales exceeding 200 million records globally.
Exceeding 200 million. And critically, as of 2024, she is the most RIA-certified female artist in history.
And for those who might not know, the RIAA is what? The Recording Industry Association of America.
That's the one. They're the body that tracks, gold, platinum, multi-platinum certifications. So to lead that specific metric, it just speaks volumes about the consistency and really the breadth of her commercial appeal across multiple decades.
And here's the statistical anomaly that, for me, really demonstrates her strategic consistency. Her artistic relevance. She is the only woman whose first 8 studio albums each debuted atop the US Billboard 200.
8. An unbroken streak.
An unbroken streak. It stretches from 2003 all the way to 2024.
Yeah.
That is a level of dominance that's it's unheard of in modern fragmented music consumption.
Well, it's not just the sales. She holds the record for the most Grammy Awards of any act, currently standing at 35 wins.
35.
And she's tied for the most MTV Video Music Awards with 30. So when we look at these achievements, our mission today, it kind of shifts beyond just appreciating this success. We really need to figure out the how.
That's the core question for you, the listener. How did she strategically transition from being the highly disciplined leader of a best-selling girl group to a global icon who literally changed how music is distributed?
And how live performance is structured.
Right. And how genre boundaries are even perceived.
We're looking for those aha moments, the moments that explain her unique strategic brilliance, the moments that transformed what was already a successful career into one that redefined an entire industry.
It's a study in evolving themes, too, isn't it? From female empowerment and romance to...
Oh, absolutely. To historical reclamation and really complex sociopolitical discourse.
Okay, let's unpack this blueprint, starting where it all began. Houston, Texas. Born September 4th, 1981. It's fascinating to trace the roots of this global phenomenon back to such grounded yet, highly ambitious beginnings.
Indeed. Her upbringing, it provided this intense foundation built on drive and business acumen. Her mother, Tina Knowles, was a successful hairdresser and salon owner.
So that grounds the family and entrepreneurship right from the start.
Exactly. And Tina has Louisiana Creole ancestry, which is this incredible mix of African, French, Irish, Breton, Norman, Native American roots. And her father, Matthew Knowles, was African-American and, critically, a successful sales manager at Xerox.
That commercial foundation seems so key, doesn't it? And we learned that the first real sign of her exceptional talent, it sounds like something straight out of a movie script.
It really does.
While attending St. Mary's Catholic Montessori School, she was in a dance class when the instructor was humming a song, and 7-year-old Beyoncé just instinctively completes the vocal arrangement.
And that quickly snowballs into competitive success. She wins a school talent show singing John Lennon's Imagine, which is such a profound song choice for a child.
A very heavy choice.
Yeah. And what's often overlooked is that she beat competitors who were substantially older, some 15 and 16 years old. So that early discovery of her exceptional vocal control and, her confidence, it led her to formalized training at Parker Elementary, which was a music magnet school, and then later to Kinder High School for the performing and visual arts.
So the Destiny's Child machine, which would become this, crucible of her discipline, started grinding in 1990.
Right.
She met Latavia Roberson, and 2 years later, Kelly Rowland joined. They initially formed a group called Girls Time, focusing on rap and complex dance routines. But it wasn't an immediate success story. There were crucial early setbacks.
The most famous one, of course, was losing on the national television competition Star Search.
A huge deal at the time.
A huge deal. And it wasn't just losing. Beyoncé herself attributed that loss years later to a poor song choice. And that kind of public failure, especially on a national stage, I mean, that often derails careers completely. But in her case, the material makes it clear that it was a profound catalyst.
It fueled this massive, almost seismic commitment from the family. And here's where the stakes get intensely high. In 1995, Matthew Knowles left his successful corporate job at Xerox to manage the group full-time.
A decision that was not without consequence. We see the family income was halved almost instant.
Also cut in half.
And the sources note it even led to a 6-month separation for her parents because of the tremendous financial and, emotional tension. That is an enormous, almost desperate sacrifice that just underscores the grand, unrelenting ambition driving that Destiny's Child machine from the very start.
And despite all those internal pressures, they eventually secured a contract with Columbia Records. They adopted the name Destiny's Child in 1997, a name reportedly drawn from a passage in the Book of Isaiah.
Right.
And they finally got their major label debut song, Killing Time, on the massive Men in Black soundtrack.
Which was a huge placement. Their career truly exploded, though, with the sophomore album, The Writings on the Wall, in 1999.
Oh, that album.
This wasn't just a collection of singles. It was a cultural phenomenon. It spawned these massive multi-platinum hits like Bills, 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 and, of course, the career-defining Say My Name.
That album sold 13 million copies worldwide. It made it one of the best-selling R&B albums of all time and earned the group 2 Grammys.
And if you look at the lyrics of that era, especially Bills, 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 you can see the nascent theme of female independence and financial autonomy starting to emerge.
A theme that would absolutely define her solo career later on.
The Survivor era in 2001 really cemented their status, even with all the internal drama and lineup changes. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 653,000 copies in the first week.
And that's when we see the final stable lineup established. Beyoncé, Kelly Rowland, and Michelle Williams. They were producing hits like Independent Woman Part 1 and Bootylicious.
And that last song's legacy is just remarkable, isn't it?
It's incredible. The word bootylicious became so culturally ubiquitous, so deeply absorbed into the vernacular that it was added to the Oxford English Dictionary in 2004.
Wow. What was the definition?
Defined as, quote, of a woman sexually attractive. That's early evidence of their linguistic and cultural legacy, even before the full solo breakout.
So after the 2001 holiday album, 8 Days of Christmas, the group announced a hiatus for solo careers.
Setting the stage for that crucial transition.
And that transition from being a successful group member to establishing an individual identity as a superstar is notoriously difficult.
Oh, it's a graveyard of careers.
Exactly. History is littered with examples of lead singers who just fail to translate that group's success into personal longevity. However, Beyoncé managed it, just seamlessly in the early 2000s by making a strategically diverse move into film.
That's such a powerful strategic pivot. She didn't rely solely on music. She leveraged acting first, appearing in the MTV film Carmen, a hip opera in 2001.
Right.
But the big splash came when she made her theatrical film debut as Foxy Cleopatra in the massively successful comedy Austin Powers and Goldmember in 2002.
Which provided huge, high-profile exposure to mainstream global audiences who might not have been R&B fans at all.
At the same time, the most important professional and personal connection of her life began to solidify. She was featured on Jay-Z's '03 Bonnie and Clyde in 2002.
And we learned that they'd been friends for a year and a half before they started dating when she was 19. They eventually married privately in 2008. But the enormous buzz and immediate speculation surrounding that first collaboration, that alone created a perfect springboard for her first solo album.
All that anticipation just channeled directly into her solo debut, Dangerously in Love. It premiered with a pay-per-view special and dropped 10 days later in June 2003.
And it immediately debuted at #1. It's listed as one of the best-selling albums in the 21st century, moving over 11 million copies globally since its release.
This album was just so pivotal because it did more than just sell well. It fundamentally established her solo voice. It launched her first solo #1 single, Crazy in Love, featuring Jay-Z.
A song that just defined the sound of the summer, and really the entire decade.
It really did. And the success translated into 5 wins at the 46th Annual Grammy Awards, including Best Contemporary R&B Album. The public now knew Beyoncé as a singular entity.
She was absolutely dominating music, but she maintained that presence in film, too. She starred in the musical comedy The Fighting Temptations that same year.
So we see the last pieces of the Destiny's Child era kind of wrap up with their final album, Destiny Fulfilled, and their disbandment announcement in 2005, just as her solo trajectory had reached, escape velocity.
By 2006, she solidified her commercial dominance with her second solo album, Bidet, and it was strategically released internationally on her 25th birthday.
And that concept of tying her personal milestones to her public releases, that's an early sign of the intense control we'll discuss later, isn't it?
Oh, completely. And it debuted at #1, driven by the massive 10-week chart topper, Irreplaceable.
And her big screen success continued in tandem. She starred in the comedy The Pink Panther and provided its theme song Check on It, which also hit #1 for 5 consecutive weeks.
But the truly significant film role for her artistic evolution was later that year in the adaptation of Dreamgirls, where she portrayed Dina Jones, a pop singer modeled after Diana Ross.
And that role, it allowed her to demonstrate dramatic range and a kind of historical awareness of the pressures faced by female lead singers.
It's during this time, specifically leading up to her third album, that we see the formal acknowledgement of her dual nature. In 2008, after marrying Jay-Z, she released I Am Sasha Fierce.
An intentional double album concept designed to manage public perception.
Right. The structure itself was a strategic statement. The I Am side was dedicated to slower pop R&B ballads, presenting her introspective, supposedly real self.
In contrast, the Sasha Fierce side was just pure up-tempo energy, leaning heavily into electropop and Europop beats.
Sasha Fierce was explicitly introduced as her alter ego, described as too aggressive, too strong, too sassy, and too sexy for her personal self.
And this wasn't just a marketing ploy, right?
Not at all. We learned she actually created this alter ego during the intense production of Crazy in Love years earlier as a necessary psychological shield to separate the human being from the demanding, high-energy stage persona. This creative division allowed her to sustain intense pressure.
That album delivered her 5th US #1 single, Ladies. Put a ring on it.
Yes.
And the song's accompanying video created an instant, unprecedented cultural moment. The Toronto Star called the video, with its distinctive choreography, the first major dance craze of the internet age.
And the mechanics of that success are so important for you to note. This wasn't just a hit song. It was a piece of perfectly packaged, instantly replicable content that leveraged the emerging power of user-generated content and, YouTube tutorials.
Right. And coupled with other hits like Halo, she achieved the most Billboard Hot 100 top 10 singles by a woman during the entire 2000s decade.
A whole decade. That level of long-term consistency is just so rare.
In terms of acting, her portrayal of the legendary Etta James in the biopic Cadillac Records earned her significant recognition, including an NAACP Image Award nomination. And she closed out the decade in spectacular fashion at the 52nd Annual Grammy Awards in 2010.
Where she won 6 awards, including Song of the Year for Single Ladies.
And she broke her own previous 2004 record for most wins by a female artist in a single night. This entire decade just established her not just as a star, but as a dominant, self-aware pop icon.
We now enter what is arguably the most consequential era of her career, the transition from managed pop icon to self-directed industry revolutionary.
And this shift began with a conscious, deliberate deceleration.
Exactly. And here's where it gets analytically crucial, because she consciously pulled back to ensure she could push forward later on her own terms.
So in January 2010, she announced a 9-month career hiatus, which in the hyper-competitive pop world, a 9-month self-imposed break is practically unheard of for someone at her commercial peak.
She used that time explicitly for global travel visiting Europe, the Great Wall of China, the Egyptian pyramids. She dedicated herself to self-care, attending exhibitions in ballet. She even documented this necessary break in an Essence cover story called Beat, Play, Love,
which actually won her a writing award from the New York Association of Black Journalists.
Which just demonstrates her commitment to controlling her own narrative, even in print.
But the sources also reveal a profound private trauma during this period of introspection. She suffered a miscarriage, retrospectively describing it as the saddest thing she had ever endured.
And this devastating loss became a source of intense creative fuel, driving her back to the studio to write music as a coping mechanism.
This profound personal evolution coincided with a massive, permanent professional shift. In March 2011, Matthew Knowles stopped managing her career.
This was not just a change in personnel, this was the foundation of her entire new strategy. She subsequently formed her own management and production company, Parkwood Entertainment.
This managerial shift truly marks the beginning of the era of complete artistic control. Before, she was working within a highly optimized machine.
Now she owned the machine.
Exactly. So what did this Parkwood control enable, practically speaking?
Well, it allowed her to reject the traditional music industry rulebook. Her fourth studio album, Four, released in June 2011, was the first project where she exerted this creative control fully.
Okay.
It was conceived specifically as a traditional R&B and soul record, intentionally standing apart from the contemporary popular music trends of the time, which were heavily influenced by electronic dance music. She was betting on quality and genre heritage over, just following a trend.
And it paid off in terms of her reputation as a live performer. In June 2011, she became the first solo female artist in over 2 decades to headline the main Pyramid stage at the Glastonbury Festival.
A performance that was widely praised by critics as just a powerful demonstration of her evolution and mastery of the biggest stages.
This blend of personal revelation, creative control, and media disruption, it all culminated in the 2011 MTV VMAs.
Ah, the reveal.
The reveal. After performing Love on Top, she dramatically revealed her pregnancy by dropping her microphone and unbuttoning her blazer to cradle her baby bump.
That pregnancy reveal wasn't just a personal announcement. It was a meticulously executed global media event.
Oh, completely. The moment achieved a Guinness World Record at the time for the most tweets per second. It was generating 8,868 tweets per second.
Wow.
It also made that ceremony the most watched broadcast in MTV history, drawing 12.4 million viewers. She demonstrated an immediate, quantifiable ability to command global attention on her own schedule.
So, following the birth of Blue Ivy Carter in January 2012, this trend of media control culminated in the move that truly revolutionized the industry.
The surprise.
The surprise. In December 2013, she stunned the industry by unexpectedly releasing her 5th studio album, Beyoncé, on iTunes, with absolutely zero prior announcement, marketing, or promotion.
This one action single-handedly popularized and really perfected the concept of the surprise album. She immediately made history, debuting at #1 and becoming the first woman to achieve 5 consecutive U.S. #1 album debuts.
And it sold 1 million digital copies globally in just 6 days, which set an iTunes record.
The strategic power of this move cannot be overstated. By bypassing the traditional press cycle, she reclaimed the narrative.
And the album's release had such a profound industry impact, due to the logistical headache of managing a global release without warning, that it influenced the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry to adopt Friday as global release day.
It moved from the traditional Tuesday slot.
Right, from Tuesday to Friday, simply to accommodate and manage the ripple effect of instantaneous global digital releases like hers.
And lyrically, this self-titled visual album, which pioneered the concept of every track having an accompanying film, was darker, rawer, and more personal than her previous work.
It explored these tough, previously unaddressed themes like bulimia, postnatal depression, and the emotional complexity of motherhood and marriage. It was an offering of vulnerability she had previously shielded with the Sasha Fierce persona.
That commitment to the visual album format and deeply personal themes just intensified with Lemonade in 2016.
Which premiered not as a typical music video release, but as an hour-long musical film on HBO. That turned the album drop into a massive cultural event, merging cinema and music distribution.
And she continued her unbroken commercial streak, becoming the first artist to have her first 6 studio albums debut atop the Billboard 200.
And the sheer scale of the album's impact extended down the chart. All 12 tracks from Lemonade entered the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously.
Which was a staggering feat and a first for a female artist. Globally, it was the best-selling album of 2016.
But Lemonade was more than just pop culture. It sparked significant sociopolitical discourse. Its themes moved beyond simple heartache, exploring Black womanhood, reconciliation, and heartbreak within the context of alleged infidelity.
And musically, it was a massive undertaking. It incorporated rock, country, gospel, reggae, and blues, showing her mastery of all these diverse genres.
But this era also brought the inevitable friction between artistry and mainstream political expectation. Her performance of Formation at Super Bowl 50.
Right, with the dancers referencing the Black Panther Party.
Exactly. It drew sharp criticism from conservative figures and law enforcement groups, especially given the NFL's prohibition on political statements during the highly scrutinized halftime show.
And her response was just a brilliant piece of commercial defiance.
It really was. She took the criticism and turned it into revenue, selling Boycott Beyoncé merchandise on her subsequent Formation World Tour.
And that tour itself was history-making, the first all-stadium tour by a female artist. It set new benchmarks for the sheer scale, the elaborate design, and the profitability of live music spectacle. She literally turned political commentary and media outrage into a brand strategy. This sense of complete self-direction, which started with the surprise drop and managerial independence, it naturally led her to her next massive undertaking, redefining herself not just as a creator, but as a meticulous cultural archivist and historian.
And particularly focusing on marginalized Black contributions to global culture.
The cornerstone of this transition was her 2018 Coachella performance. It's widely regarded by critics and academics not just as a concert, but as a historic, almost academic-level performance.
And it became the most watched live performance on YouTube.
The sources refer to it as a rich tapestry of Black cultural excellence. The performance was this direct and powerful homage to Black culture, focusing heavily on the traditions of historically Black colleges and universities.
Right, with the massive precision marching band aesthetic. An aesthetic that had rarely, if ever, been given that kind of platform on a mainstream global stage. And the subsequent documentary Homecoming further emphasized this historical intent.
Immediately following her successful On the Run 2 tour with Jay-Z, they released their collaborative album as The Carters, Everything is Love in June 2018.
Which helped frame their marital and professional relationship as an unparalleled, dominant partnership in the industry.
And in 2019, her involvement with the Lion King remake extended far beyond just voicing Nala. She curated and produced the companion album, The Gift.
And this was not just a soundtrack, it was a dedicated act of musical archiving and cross-cultural pollination.
What's fascinating here is the deliberate effort to root the music geographically and historically.
Absolutely. Given the film's African setting, The Gift incorporated genres like dagcom and Afrobeat, a deliberate nod to contemporary South African and West African club sounds. And she intentionally recruited African producers to ensure cultural authenticity and global reach.
This commitment to cultural celebration was then furthered by the visual companion, Black is King, which was released in 2020.
So this whole trajectory of grand, structured release strategy, the visual component, the deeply researched themes, the global cultural engagement, it all prepared us for her most ambitious project yet, the 3-act trilogy.
Conceived and recorded during the initial isolation period of the COVID-19 pandemic, a period she described as her most creative.
Renaissance Act 1 in 2022 was the first taste. Musically, it was a pure, ecstatic dance, disco, and house record. But thematically, it was explicitly positioned as a direct homage to the historically overlooked contributions of Black queer pioneers.
Specifically citing ballroom culture, 90s club sounds, and the queer roots of house music.
And that thematic specificity added significant weight. The music wasn't just fun, it was history. Commercially, she continued her unbroken streak. Renaissance debut atop the Billboard 200, making her the first artist to have her first 7 studio albums debut at #1 in the U.S.
7. Incredible.
And the lead single, Break My Soul, was a commercial and cultural anchor. It made her one of only 3 artists, alongside Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, to earn 20 or more top 10 singles as a solo act and 10 or more as a group member.
That statistic just highlights her multi-generational relevance, doesn't it? She's competing with legends who dominated music when the industry structure was entirely different.
Now, we have to address the complex tension that immediately followed this celebratory, queer-affirming album.
Her private concert in Dubai in January 2023.
Right, for which she was reportedly paid $24 million. It sparked considerable criticism from her core fan base and cultural commentators.
And that criticism centered on the obvious tension, right? The United Arab Emirates has laws that criminalize homosexuality, which seem to conflict sharply with Renaissance's deeply personal and celebratory themes of queer liberation and ballroom culture.
And this really highlights the constant difficult tension between immense global commercial power and specific sociopolitical messaging.
It's an important piece of the puzzle for you, the learner, to consider. Where does the artistic commitment end and the global business opportunity begin? Her father, Matthew Knowles, publicly defended the performance, stating she had united a really diverse crowd, but the conversation around the ethics of massive global contracts and restrictive states remains a critical part of her contemporary brand analysis.
Regardless of the criticism, the subsequent Renaissance World Tour was a monumental success, both artistically and financially. It became the highest-grossing tour by a female artist at the time.
Showcasing over 148 different costume styles and this elaborate genre-defining stage design, she even released a documentary concert film, Renaissance, a film by Beyoncé chronicling the detailed process of staging such an endeavor.
Which brings us to Act 2, Cowboy Carter in 2024. This was another massive intentional cultural reclamation project. It was an Americana-inspired record, specifically highlighting the historically overlooked contributions of Black pioneers to country music.
A genre often whitewashed in mainstream media.
Completely. She rooted this album in traditional sounds, using instrumentation like the accordion, harmonica, acoustic guitar, and the banjo, while simultaneously collaborating with contemporary and historical country legends. This work immediately broke massive cultural and institutional barriers.
She won a Grammy for Best Country Album, making her the first Black artist in 50 years to win in the country categories.
Furthermore, she was the first Black woman in 25 years to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. These awards confirm the academic and critical validation of her genre-bending archival work.
And her vocal versatility expanded even further on this album. In a truly surprising operatic shift that, few pop stars would ever dare attempt, she sang the 18th century aria Caro mio ben on the track Daughter.
Wow. Which showcases a classical operatic vocal style alongside her natural Texan accent used prominently across the rest of the album.
That level of technical detail weaving high art opera into a country reclamation project while simultaneously redefining the commercial expectations of that genre, it just demonstrates pure, uncompromising artistic vision.
It's no wonder that the Cowboy Carter Tour became the highest-grossing country tour of all time. So when we look at the totality of her career from the vantage point of this deep dive, Part 5 really forces us to synthesize her sprawling legacy through three critical lenses: artistry, global influence, and her strategic business empire.
Artistically, she is universally described as a musical chameleon, rooted primarily in R&B, pop, and hip-hop, but constantly incorporating elements of soul and funk.
And she's widely credited with helping repopularize or introduce multiple, often marginalized subgenres to the U.S. mainstream: R&B, country, dance, house, and Afrobeats via The Gift. Her work absolutely refuses to stay within traditional genre boundaries.
Her vocal power is a constant subject of study. She possesses a mezzo-soprano vocal range, but it's the texture and the control that critics really focus on. She was described by Jody Rosen in T magazine as one of the most compelling instruments in popular music.
And her voice has been praised for balancing sultry sounds and powerful, sustained belting.
One critic specifically noted her ability to punctuate any beat with goosebump-inducing whispers or full-bore diva roars, which I think highlights her dynamic control perfectly.
And crucially, Rolling Stone ranked her 8th on its influential list of the 200 greatest singers of all time. And their justification was simple. In her voice lies the entire history of Black music.
That's a massive endorsement of her technical range and her ability to evoke genre history through her vocal performance.
Her songwriting reflects her entire career evolution. Starting with Destiny's Child themes of generalized female empowerment and romance.
Her themes deepened into profound personal issues: the public scrutiny of her marriage, bulimia, miscarriage, and then finally expanded into explicit historical and political discourse with Lemonade and the Trilogy project.
We learn that she is studied by academics as a musical archivist, with others comparing her storytelling prowess to that of a modern-day griot, a West African historian, storyteller, and praise singer. She uses music to convey communal history and contemporary social commentary.
She credits Michael Jackson as her greatest musical influence, recalling that attending his concert at age 5 solidified her purpose as a performer.
She also names Tina Turner as a foundational influence, specifically for embodying strength while remaining profoundly feminine, and Mariah Carey, whose complex vocal runs in Vision of Love inspired her to dedicate herself to practicing vocal gymnastics.
But her influence on the industry itself is perhaps her most transformative legacy. She's credited with revolutionizing distribution, promotion, and consumption patterns.
Her self-titled album in 2013 didn't just popularize the surprise release. It revitalized the entire album format. It pushed the industry toward more cohesive, narrative-led, visual-first releases, rather than just collections of singles.
And that legacy is why her career and artistic methods are studied so extensively in universities globally, including a Yale course dedicated solely to analyzing her legacy.
Beyond academia, she has coined phrases that have just permeated mainstream culture, put a ring on it for a marriage proposal.
I woke up like this, sparking the morning selfie trend.
And boy bye, defining the vernacular of romantic breakups.
Even outside of human culture, her influence extends. A species of Australian horsefly, Scaptia Beyoncé, was named after her golden hairs in 2012.
which just further cements her cultural ubiquity.
This immense artistic and cultural success runs parallel to an equally successful, tightly managed business empire. Her net worth is estimated at what, $780 million as of June 2025.
That's right. And the Carters officially became a billion-dollar couple back in 2017, demonstrating the colossal economic power generated by their partnership and individual ventures.
The foundation of this control is Parkwood Entertainment, which she founded in 2008. Parkwood functions as a multi-pronged production, management, and film company,
Which allows her to manage her career, produce her own content, and even sign other artists, like Chloe X. Halle. This self-management is critical. It's the engine that powers her entire ability to surprise drop albums and finance visual content in complete secrecy.
She had her initial fashion success with her mother, Tina, launching House of Darion in 2005. But the real strategic move came with Ivy Park in 2016.
And that brand experienced some significant business maneuvers, highlighted by Beyoncé buying out the 50% stake held by Topshop owner Philip Green.
That move was profoundly strategic. It demonstrated both business savvy and a commitment to protecting her brand's image, especially following allegations that Green had sexually harassed, bullied, and racially abused employees.
So by taking full control, she removed her brand from association with that controversy. It was a massive undertaking that really solidified her image as an independent power broker.
And she has recently expanded her empire, diversifying into completely new sectors. She launched Secret, a hair care line, in 2024, focusing on generational black hair care techniques.
And Sir Davis, a whiskey line co-founded with a master distiller, also launched in 2024. This constant diversification shows a deep understanding of long-term wealth generation beyond just touring and record sales.
This empire is built in part on years of massive corporate endorsements. She signed a highly publicized $50 million deal with Pepsi in 2012 and has a long-standing partnerships with L'Oreal and Tiffany & Co.
But that Tiffany partnership led to one of those brand friction moments we discussed. Her 2021 campaign, where she wore the 128.54-carat Tiffany yellow diamond, drew criticism because the gem is considered a blood diamond associated with colonial exploitation in South Africa.
Right, and again, this is the inherent tension of the global brand. Commercial necessity sometimes clashes with the sociopolitical awareness championed in her art.
Finally, let's discuss her activism and political positioning. She identifies as a modern-day feminist, famously sampling the Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's TED Talk in the track Flawless.
Which generated substantial academic debate over whether her brand of feminism, often focused on individual achievement and sexual liberation, aligns with older, more structural feminist ideals.
Regardless of that academic debate, her political engagement is undeniable. She has been highly active, holding a major fundraiser for Obama's 2012 campaign and endorsing figures like Hillary Clinton, Beto O'Rourke, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Even allowing the latter to use her song Freedom as a campaign anthem.
She has also consistently spoken out on social issues, protesting police brutality, attending a Trayvon Martin rally, and supporting same-sex marriage and transgender youth. And her philanthropy is massive and meticulously directed.
She co-founded the Survivor Foundation in the wake of Hurricane Katrina to assist with housing, established the Knowles-Temenos Place Apartments, which housed 43 displaced individuals,
And founded the Beyoncé Cosmetology Center at Phoenix House, a drug and alcohol rehabilitation nonprofit. Critically, she financed that cosmetology center with her entire $4 million salary from Cadillac Records.
And most recently, she donated millions during the COVID-19 pandemic and to address the critical water crisis in Flint, Michigan. Her scope of influence truly covers politics, social justice, humanitarian aid, and global commerce, making her one of the most complex, multi-layered icons of our time.
To synthesize this deep dive for you, Beyoncé's career narrative is one of unwavering strategic control. From taking over her own management and founding Parkwood Entertainment, her dedication to artistic reinvention is just unparalleled.
Moving from the traditional R&B of Four to the dual identity of I am Sasha Fierce and the thematic complexity of Lemonade.
And perhaps most importantly, she has strategically positioned herself as a cultural disruptor and an archivist. She defined the sound and look of multiple decades and utilized unconventional methods.
The visual album, the surprise drop, the detailed archival work in the trilogy to completely redefine how we consume and perceive pop stardom.
Her exploration of genre, particularly reclaiming dance music with Renaissance and country music with Cowboy Carter for Black artists, demonstrates her profound commitment to challenging and correcting the dominant, often whitewashed historical narrative of American music.
So we've seen her first self-titled album popularize the surprise drop strategy that fundamentally redefined the music industry's timeline. We've seen her latest work dismantle assumptions about genre ownership and archival responsibility. That incredible trajectory of escalating power and control leads us to the final enduring question about this remarkable three-act project.
Her entire career is a testament to meticulously curated power and continuous escalation. So if Act 1, Renaissance, celebrated overlooked queer history, and Act 2, Cowboy Carter, reclaimed Black contributions to Americana, what fundamental assumption about the creation, ownership, and presentation of pop stardom will she dismantle entirely with her forthcoming final act of the trilogy?
Will Act 3 be another genre reclamation, perhaps rock or classical? Or will it push the envelope on distribution even further, maybe challenging the very concept of the album cycle itself, or maybe even the intellectual property ownership of art? It's a question that keeps the industry guessing, and we can't wait to find out what creative assumptions she decides to obliterate next.